Tashdile and welcome to Tibet This Week. This is Sakina Bhatt with another edition of Weekly News on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama ushers religious harmony amongst Muslim communities at Celebrating Diversity in the Muslim World Conference. CTA President speaks at Cambridge Union. 6th All India Tibet Support Groups Conference held in Dharamshala. 21 Indian states participate. Representative Ngodup Tsering attends Tibet Day on the Hill at Canadian Parliament. Election Commissioner educates Tibetan communities in Swiss, France, Canada and the US on the recent amended Tibetan electoral system. Kalmykia observes offering of melody dedicated to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet meets for summer session. Tibetan Parliamentary Delegation calls on members of the US Congress. For the first time ever, Muslims in Ladakh organized the national-level Muslims conference titled Celebrating Diversity in the Muslim World at the India International Center in New Delhi on Saturday last week. This initiative aims to promoting unity and harmony amongst the Muslims in South Asia. As the chief guest of the event, His Holiness the Dalai Lama spoke on happiness and compassion.
Those Muslims in Tibet, as I briefly mentioned, very peaceful. No record of quarrel. Muslim, very peaceful. And then also my own birthplace area, many Muslims, very peaceful. Then Islam. One time in Turtuk, in Ladakh, one meeting, one local, the head of the Muslim, Imam, he expressed, any Muslim, they love Allah, so they must love entire creation of Allah. Wonderful, wonderful. So Buddhist terminology is mother sentient being, entire sentient being. We should feel as dear as your own mother. So in philosophical field, big differences, but the real message is same. We should extend our love towards entire the creation way, a creature of Allah. And then one occasion, one Muslim, he told me, any person who create bloodshed other than no longer genuine Muslim practitioner.
That the Muslim interaction with the Tibetan world is a phenomenon that began in the 8th century AD and continues to this day. Evidence of this is to be found in the Dunhuang documents, starting as early as the 9th century in textual information, wherein Muslims are referred with names like Tajik and Khache. Khache, incidentally, is the term that is most widely used for the Muslims, and it is etymologically connected to the word Kashir, which is Kashmir. So it gives you an idea of how early that connection took place. Kashmir, from my own state of Jammu and Kashmir. Contemporarily, today, variants of Tibetan language, it must be remembered, are spoken and its culture adopted in no less than 4 of the 7 SAARC countries, including Nepal, India, where variants of the language are spoken and written in the states of J&K, the state of Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, West Bengal, and Arunachal.
The President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Singye, embarked on a 10-day official visit to the United Kingdom on Sunday this week. Dr. Singye started his program at the prestigious Cambridge Union, the oldest debating society in the world and the largest student society in Cambridge. Dr. Singye spoke on Tibet's importance in ideologically, environmentally, geopolitically, and spiritually. He further spoke on the middle way approach as a pragmatic solution to the Tibet issue and gave an explanation on genuine autonomy. Dr. Singh will be making his first visit to Scotland next week for a 3-day program. He is also scheduled to speak at the meetings of the Cross-Party Group for Tibet in Scottish Parliament and All-Party Group for Tibet in UK Parliament. The 6th All India Tibet Support Groups Conference was convened at the Central Tibetan Administration with the participation of 216 members of Tibet support groups representing 21 states across India on Saturday last week. Sri Rinchen Khando Krime, National Convener, Core Group for Tibet Cause, noted that this conference is to commemorate the 60th year of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and fellow Tibetans in exile, which he said coincides with the 60th year of First All India Convention on Tibet in Calcutta, where Jai Prakash Narayan first addressed on Tibet issue in 1959. The Indian speakers unanimously called for the resolution of the Tibet issue through a peaceful democratic means based on dialogue to facilitate the honorable return of the Tibetan people to Tibet. In an expression of warmth and gratitude, President Dr. Singh delivered an enthusiastic speech in Hindi and said that no other country has done more for Tibet than India, and no people of a country has been so kind, generous as the Indian people is to Tibetans. He urged India to speedily adopt the policy Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act, a US legislation that calls for ban on access for Chinese government officials responsible for restricting access for US journalists, diplomats, tourists and citizens, including Tibetan Americans, to Tibet.
So we were here in Dharamshala for 2-day conference, and from all over India we came. We believe that Tibetan people have a lot of potential and they have been harassed completely by China government. We were here to come together with Tibetan people so that we can work on our environmental, cultural, social, economical issues. And today we took pledge that we will all come together and work for the improvement and betterment of Tibetan people.
President Dr. Singh, along with other key speakers, unveiled the Hindi translation of CTA's publication titled "Tibet was never part of China, but the middle way approach remains a viable solution." The core members also had an audience with His Holiness at the Guggle Airport in Dharamshala.
I always feel and emphasize politically whether Tibet is part of China or not. Culturally, linguistically, Tibet is own unique culture and language. So on that level, relation between India and Tibet, I usually describe relation between Guru and the Chela.
Representative Ngodup Tsering, Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C. attended the event Tibet Day on the Hill, organized by the Parliamentary Friends of Tibet in Ottawa, Canada, on Tuesday last week at the Parliamentary House Conference Room. The MPs who attended the event expressed their love and support for Tibet. Representative Ngodup Tsering thanked the Parliamentary Friends of Tibet members for their relentless support for Tibet and for gifting the internship opportunity for the young Tibetan students. Representative Ngodup Tsering and CTC Director Sharab Tharchin called up the directors of global affairs and briefed them on Tibet issues. Chief Tibetan Election Commissioner Sonam Chopel Chosur of the Central Tibetan Administration educates the Tibetan community on the recent amended Tibetan electoral system in Switzerland, France and Canada. Given the importance of having a clear understanding of the new legislation and amendment in rules and regulation of the electoral system, Chosur thoroughly explained and specified each and every revised provision in the election rules. The main emphasis of the amendments was on the restrictions on patronage and instigation of competition in elections and its penalties, the ban on associations and NGOs promoting candidates, the expanded authority of local election commissioners, the abbreviation of a period of the election process, and the swifter process to facilitate decision of Sikyong's election, etc. The people of Kalmykia performed an offering of melody dedicated to His Holiness the Dalai Lama's long life and good health on the occasion of the holy month of Sagadawa, the most important days in the Buddhist lunar calendar. Over 6,000 people gathered to witness the historical event and offered prayers for His Holiness's long life and His Holiness to visit and bless the people of Kalmykia. This annual event began in 2015 under the leadership of Honorary Representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to Russia, Mongolia and CIS countries, Delo Tulku Rinpoche. Members of Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet held its summer session meeting at the Parliament Building Office in Bern on Monday this week. The meeting discussed a wide range of agenda including the middle way approach and recently concluded 7th World Parliamentarian Convention on Tibet held in Latvia, Riga. Representative Chimirinzi, Tibet Bureau in Geneva, briefed the historical status of independent Tibet and explained the importance of initiating concrete efforts from the parliamentarian group in bringing China into dialogue with envoys of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thomas Buckley, Secretary of the Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet and President of Swiss-Tibetan Friendship Association, reviewed the last year meetings and presented proposed interpellations for the ongoing session. The Tibetan Parliamentary Delegation visited the nation's capital to meet with members of the U.S. Congress, various civil society leaders, the State Department officials. The first day of their visit began with a meeting with Congressman Jim McGovern, a congressman who has been a vocal and staunch supporter of Tibet. The Tibetan delegation spoke about the deteriorating situation in Tibet, highlighting the severe crackdown on religious freedom, heavy restriction of movement, deprivation of opportunities for learning the Tibetan language, the uprooting of nomadic lifestyle, the case of 153 self-immolated Tibetans, and the disappearance of Panchen Lama for 3 decades. The delegation urged the congressman to pressure China in allowing His Holiness to return as aspired by almost all self-immolators. The congressman stated that he and members of Congress are very concerned about the deteriorating situation in Tibet and extended their full support. However, McGovern suggested that it is important to see through the aggressive implementation of the Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act and the appointment of a special coordinator for Tibetan issues as soon as possible. Now we have a short documentary produced by Tibettv on what makes ordinary Indians put up the portrait of His Holiness the Dalai Lama at their establishments. Enjoy the video.
This is a typical Tibetan restaurant in Dharamshala. People come and eat. And almost wherever you go, you are greeted by this portrait of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Now meet Mr. R.K. Agarwal. He is not a Tibetan, not even a Buddhist. And yet, at his electronic store in Dharamshala market, you are still greeted by the portrait of His Holiness. So, what makes ordinary Indians put up this portrait at their establishments?
ये तो मैं समझता हूँ धर्मशाला का एक सौभाग्य है कि दलाई लामा जैसे विद्वान हैं जी गुरु वो धर्मशाला में आके उन्होंने स्थान ग्रहण किया तो ये तो हमारे ऊपर एक एहसान है हम मानते हैं तिब्बतन कम्युनिटी का और दलाई लामा जी का तो उनकी इतनी रिस्पेक्ट है इतना उनका सम्मान है धर्मशाला के लोगों के मन में कि पूरे वर्ल्ड में जिस गुरु को माना गया वो आज हमारे यहाँ पर शरण स्थली में रह रहे हैं और उनका आशीर्वाद हमारे धर्मशाला के ऊपर है ये बहुत बड़ी बात है
And there are many like him who believe keeping the portrait of His Holiness brings good luck and blessings to their business.
Actually, Dharamshala resembles Dalai Lama and he is the symbol of peace and prosperity for the people of Dharamshala and he is just a god figure for the people like us and he shows peace around and we are very grateful that we have him in Dharamshala and we have his blessings all over in Dharamshala.
The symbolism of offering respect to His Holiness is a reflection of growing harmonious relationship between Indian and the Tibetan communities.
जो तिब्बतन कम्युनिटी का यहाँ पर सेटलमेंट हुआ 1959 से उसके बाद तक देखा गया कि इतना सौहार्दपूर्ण वातावरण रहा है दोनों कम्युनिटीज़ के बीच में कि आज ऐसा लगता ही नहीं है कि वो 1959 में कहीं बाहर से आए थे क्योंकि आज वो एज ख़त्म हो चुकी है आज नई जनरेशन्स आ गई हैं जिन्होंने हिंदुस्तान में ही जन्म लिया धर्मशाला के वो जन्मस्थली हैं तो धर्मशाला में जिन्होंने जन्म लिया या हिंदुस्तान में जन्म लिया वो हमारे भाई बहन हैं, हमारे रिश्तेदारों की तरह हैं। हमारे मन में ये कभी नहीं आता किसी के मन में भी कि वो किसी दूसरी कम्युनिटी से हैं।
One only hopes that under the blessing of His Holiness, the people of Dharamshala will continue to grow closer to each other. In Dharamshala, Tenzin Churup for Tibettv.
That's all for this week's edition of Tibet This Week. See you next time and have a great weekend.